Hello everyone, this is SyntaxError and welcome back to another tutorial. In today's tutorial, we are going to be taking a look at the dog summoning dart, or basically just the dog dart. Anyways, first of all, I'd like to mention that there are indeed timestamps down below in the description, so you can go ahead and skip to whichever section you want to skip to. Now, let's just go ahead and take a look at what the item actually does. So if we just go ahead and give ourselves the dog dart by typing in the give dog dart / give dog dart command, and do note that it's a one-time use item. So basically what it does is that it's going to create a dart when you right click on it, and it's going to follow the direction you look at, and once it lands it will summon dogs, 5 to be exact. However, the dogs will despawn after 20 seconds and the dogs will attack whatever that's near to it. Anyways, so let's just go ahead and right click that, and we can actually see that it actually maneuvers based on wherever we look at, and we can actually see that the dogs actually spawn here. So there'll be 5 dogs spawning and there's one alpha. The alpha will attack any mob that's within 10 blocks of it, and the other 4 dogs will follow the alpha to attack whatever it is attacking. So let's just go ahead and 20 seconds over, they despawned. Anyways, let's just go ahead and summon a husk, I guess. Let's just go ahead and summon 2 husks and give ourselves the dog dart again, and let's just go ahead and spawn the dogs there. So you can actually see that the alpha and its followers will go ahead and attack the husk, and it's going to attack the next one after the husk has died. So yeah, that's basically the item, and let's get straight into the coding then. Alright, for the coding part, we are back in our custom items plugin, and the first thing that we can go ahead and do is create a new Java class, and we are just going to name this one item manager, which is basically where we are going to be designing the item. So first of all, we are going to create a public static item stack, and we are just going to name this dog dart, which is the name of the item. And then we are also going to create a public static void, and we're going to name this one init, which stands for initialization, and we're just going to leave that as it is for the time being. And we're going to move on to create a private static void, and we're just going to call this create dog dart, and then put our brackets and our curly brackets, and now we can go ahead and start designing the item. So we just go ahead and type item stack item equals to new item stack to create a new item stack. And within our brackets, we can put the material, which in this case will be material.bone, so that it will look like a bone, and put the amount as 1. Then we can go ahead and get the item meta. So item meta equals to item.get item meta. And then we can go ahead and set a display name. So meta.set display name. And then we can go ahead and put our speech marks, and we can go ahead and go into this website to get the color code symbol, and the link to this website will be down below in the description. So we can just go ahead and paste that over here and put a 6 next to the color code symbol for gold in color, and then we're just going to call this dog dart, which is the name of the item. And then now we're going to move on to create the lore of the item. So it's slightly different from how we create the name. In this case, we have to create a list, and we are just going to put string type in our angle brackets, and we're just going to put lore. We're just going to name it lore equals to a new array list. Then we can go ahead and add the lines of lore now. So lore.add, then we can just paste in our color code symbol after we put in our speech marks, and put a 6 again for gold in color. And then we're just going to type item ability colon, let's just put it as summon with a exclamation mark just to make it slightly stand out a bit more, I guess. Then we can just go ahead and add more lines of lore. This time just put a 7 for gray in color instead, and just put create a dart that follows the direction, and we're just going to move down 1 line just so that it makes it more aesthetically pleasing, I guess. And put 7 again. You look and summons dogs when it lands. So it's just going to be a short descriptive paragraph just to tell the user what the item actually does, and we're just going to create a few more lines. Dogs despawn after 20 seconds, if I remember how to spell things correctly. And then the last line, which would be one time use. This time we are putting E instead of 7 or 6, which basically means yellow color. And we can just go ahead and just type method.setLore as our lore, and then we can just go ahead and do item.setItemMeta as our meta, and finally .dart equals to our item. And with that, we are basically done designing the item, and you can just go ahead and go back into our init method. I almost said class again. Init method, and we can just go ahead and create .dart. And now the final step would be to go back into our main class, and then we can just go ahead and call it. That's not the correct one. We can just go ahead and go back to our item manager and then call our init method. So that's basically the item creation done. Now we can move on with our item commands. As for the commands for the item, we can just go ahead and create a new Java class, and then we can just go ahead and that's not how we spell commands. We can just go ahead and name this commands, and as usual, we shall implement command executor. And after we've done that, we can just go ahead and create a public boolean, and we are going to name this on command. And within our brackets, we can just go ahead and put command sender. We're just going to call it sender command cmd, comma string label, and finally string square brackets args. After we've done that, first of all, we're going to check if the sender of the command is a player or not. So if sender instance of player, then we are just going to move outside of the curly brackets or outside the if statement, and we're just going to create an else statement. So if the sender is not a player, we're going to send them a message. So in this case, sender.send message, only players can use that command. Then we can just go ahead and return true. Then now we're going to just move back into our if statement that we created earlier, and we are just going to convert that sender into a player. So player equals bracketed player sender. Then now we're going to check if the player is opt or not. So if player.isOpt, then as usual, we're just going to move outside of our if statement, just create an else statement. Else player.send message as you are not allowed to use this command. Then we can just go ahead and move outside of the else statement again and return true. Finally, we can move back into our if statement that we created earlier. So after we have determined that our player is indeed opt, then we're going to check the command that is sent. So if cmd.getName equals ignore case, and the command that we want to listen to is give.dart. Then if that is the command that you type, we are just going to do player.getInventory.addItem, item manager.dart. So that after that's basically done, we can just go ahead and do the few last steps, which is to register the command both in the main class and the plugin.yml. So then we can just go into our main class and do that first. So in this case, we are just going to type get command, and we're going to put our speech marks inside our brackets, but this time we're going to head back into our commands class that we created earlier, and we are just going to copy this command over here and paste it right in. Remember that whatever we type in here must be the exact same thing as whatever we type here, otherwise the thing will not work. So yeah, just a quick note on that. Anyways, .set executor, and we're just going to type new commands, which basically refers back to our commands class that we created just now. And now we can move on to our last step, which is the plugin.yml. In this case, we can just go ahead and type commands and paste in the exact same thing. Remember that it has to be the exact same command, otherwise it will not work. Then we can just go ahead and put a description as gives the player a .dart. And finally, we can put the usage as / angle bracket command close angle bracket. And with that, we are done with our item commands. Now we can move on with our items function. Alright, for the items function, we are just going to go ahead and create another new Java class. And this time, we're just going to name this .dart, which is basically the name of our item, just for simplicity purposes. And then, as usual, we're going to implement listener. Now, first of all, we are going to create a constructor because we're going to need to get an instance of the main class, as we're going to be needing that later. So we're just going to go ahead and type the name of our main class, which in this case is custom items, and we're going to type plugin next to it. And then we're going to type public, and we're going to type the name of the class, which in this case is .dart. And in the brackets, we're going to put custom items, the name of the main class again, and put plugin. Then over here, we can just type this .plugin equals to plugin, and that's basically our constructor done. Now we're just going to move on with our add event handler. So add event handler, which is where we're going to be listening to events. So public void on interact. We're just going to call this on interact. And then we're going to listen to a, that's not how we spell player interact event, and we're just going to type event next to it. Now, first of all, we're going to check if the player is right clicking or not. So if event.getAction equals to action dot right click block, or event.getAction equals to, that's 2 equals, not 3 equals, action dot right click error. Remember that there are two things that we want to check for when we are checking if the player is right clicking. And then the next thing that we're going to do is event.getHand equals to equipment slot.hand. And the reason why we are doing this is because player interact event runs 2 times, one for the player's main hand and 1 time for the player's offhand. So it's basically after the 1.9 update where the offhand was a thing, I guess. So then in this case, we only want it to be run once and the dart to be shot out only 1 time. So we're just going to specify it to the main hand only and not run for the offhand. Now the next thing we're going to check is if the player is holding the dart item as they right click. So we're going to do if event.getItem is not null. We are basically going to run a few null checks first, just so that our console does not spam does not get spammed with null pointer exceptions if any of these are null. Then event.getItem is that's not correct. Event.getItem.getItem and event.getItem.getItem meta is not null. And event.getItem.getItem meta.getLore is not null. Then we're just going to move down 1 line just to make things slightly easier to see. And then event.getItem, that's not how we spell event, my spelling is bad. Event.getItem.getItem meta.getLore.contains. And then over here, we are just going to refer back to our item manager. .dart.getItem meta. I don't know why I keep pronouncing item meta as item manager. .getLore.get. And then over here, we're just going to go back to our item manager class. And I just realized we mistyped follows here. Anyways, basically we are just gonna check if our item that the player is holding contains the first line of lore of the dart, which is basically the item ability summon. So in this case, we're just gonna type 0. Remember that array list elements always start with 0 and not 1. Just a quick reminder. And then, first of all, we are going to take a dart out from their inventory because it's a one-time use item. So to do that, we are just going to do event.getItem.setAmount as event.getItem.getAmount subtracted by 1. And the reason why we are doing this instead of directly doing getInventory.remove item from the player's inventory is because, let's just say that our player is holding a dart in the 3rd hotbar slot. That was a tongue twister for me. I do not know why. Then we can just go ahead and say that there is another dart in the 2nd slot of their hotbar. So in this case, we want the 3rd hotbar slot's dart to get removed because that's what they are currently holding. However, we just go ahead and do getInventory.remove item. We will remove the item in the 2nd hotbar slot because it's closer to 0. So that's basically why we have to do that, so that it removes the item in the player's hand. Then now we are just going to spawn in our arrow or our dart. So arrow equals to event.getPlayer.getWorld.spawn event.getPlayer.getLocation.add 0, 1.75, 0. Basically why we are adding this to the player's location is because we want to spawn the arrow further up into the air so that it gives the player time to maneuver the arrow. So if we do not add anything at all, it's just going to spawn straight at their feet, and if they are just looking slightly downwards, it's going to drive the arrow straight to the floor and summon the dog straight away. So you want to give them time to maneuver the arrow, so we're just going to spawn it higher up. Then we're just going to put arrow.class because an arrow is basically what we want to spawn in. Now, first of all, we are just going to go ahead and create a bucket runnable. A bucket runnable is basically something like a loop which loops through a block of code every few ticks. Then we are just going to create a public void run, and then within our public void run will basically be where our code that we want to loop every few ticks. So first of all, we're going to check if the arrow has not hit the ground or is not has not hit a mob yet. So to do this, we're going to put not arrow.isDead and not arrow.isOnGround. This just makes it so that our arrow has not checks if the arrow has not hit a mob, which basically will remove the arrow if it hits the mob, or the arrow has not hit the ground yet. Then if it's true, if both the conditions are true, then we are going to do arrow.setVelocity as event.getPlayer.getLocation.getDirection.multiply by 0.75. Arrow.setVelocity basically just moves the arrow. Event.getPlayer.getLocation.getDirection basically gets the direction of where the player is looking at, and it's a vector, which is what set velocity requires. Dot multiply 0.75 basically just determines how fast, in this case, how fast our arrow is going to move. So if you want the arrow to move slower, you can decrease this amount, but if you want the arrow to move faster, you can increase this amount. Just a quick note there, and then we can just move outside of our if statement to create an else statement. Else, and we're just going to create a list first, and we are going to take a look at why we are needing that in a bit, and we're just going to put wolf over here, and we are just going to put dark wolves as the name equals to a new array list. Then now we're just going to start spawning in the wolf, so we're going to start off with the alpha wolf first. So wolf alpha wolf equals to arrow.getWorld.spawn arrow.getLocation, and then we are going to spawn in a wolf, so wolf.class, and that's not how we spell class. There we go, and we forgot our brackets over here, so we're just going to add that straight in first. And then over here we're just going to put alpha wolf dot set custom name as check color dot gold, which makes it gold in color, plus alpha. And then we are going to do alpha wolf dot set custom name visible as true, so the player will be able to identify which one is the alpha wolf without needing to hover their mouse or hover their cursor over the alpha wolf. Then we are going to do dart, that's not the correct one, that's not how we spell dart. Dart wolves dot add alpha wolf. Then we are just going to spawn in the remaining 4 wolves, so wolf1 equals to arrow.getWorld.spawn arrow.getLocation.add. And over here we're going to add -1 on the x-axis, 0 on the y-axis, and 0 on the z-axis. And it's a wolf that we are after, so wolf.class. And basically we are spawning the arrow this at the arrow's location dot add -1 on the x-axis, so that our wolf gets spawned 1 block to the left, I guess. Hopefully my coordinates are correct. To the left of the alpha wolf. Then we are also going to do the exact same thing, dart wolves.add wolf1. Then for the remaining 3 wolves, we are just going to copy and paste that. And we're going to change this to wolf2. Wolf 3, wolf 3, and finally wolf 4 and wolf 4. Remember that there are two things to change, which is basically the name of the variable here and the part where we are adding the wolf into the list. Now we are going to take a look at this part over here. So in this case, we are going to change the -1 to 1 so that it spawns on the right of our alpha wolf, and then we're going to change this to 0 but change the z-axis to -1 instead so that it spawns behind our alpha wolf. And then we are going to change this one for the final one to 0 and over here 1 on the z-axis instead so that it spawns in front of our alpha wolf. So in this case, we are going to get something like an X or a T formation of how the wolves will spawn, with the alpha wolf in the middle of all of them. Then after that, we are just going to go ahead and just cancel our Bukit runnable first because we are not going to be needing it anymore. And if we do not cancel it, it's going to lag out the entire server. Then we're just going to go before our cancel and create yet another Bukit runnable. This Bukit runnable will basically time the 20 seconds and then despawn our wolves, and also to set the target of the wolves as well. So first of all, we're going to type int I equals to 0, and we are going to go through why we're going to need this in a bit. Then we are going to do public void run. That's not the correct type of brackets. There we go. Remember that our int I equals 0 is above our public void run. If we put it inside the public void run, it won't work. In this case, we are just going to do I is less than 80, and we are going to go through that later after we finish the rest of the code in this Bukit runnable. First of all, we are going to be setting the target, or basically setting what our alpha wolf is going to target and what our other wolves are going to target. So in this case, we are just going to first of all check if our alpha wolf is not targeting anything at the current time. So if alpha wolf dot get target equals to null, or alpha wolf dot get target dot is dead. So basically, we are checking if the alpha wolf is not attacking anything currently, or the thing that the alpha wolf was attacking has been killed by something else. So if both are true, we are going to set them to make them attack something. So in this case, we are going to create an enhanced for loop. So we are going to do entity colon alpha wolf dot get nearby entities 10 10 10. Basically what this is that it's going to loop through all the nearby entities within a 10 block of the alpha wolf. Then first of all, we're going to check if the entity instance of living entity, and that is because entities include things such as minecarts and boats, which unfortunately our wolves cannot attack. So we're going to need to make sure that whatever they are attacking is a living entity first. Whatever they're going to attack is going to be a living entity first, and entity is not event.get player. This just makes sure that our our wolves do not attack the player that summoned them in the first place, because that is not going to be a good thing. And not dark wolves dot contains entity. This just makes it so that our wolves do not attack their own kind, but they can attack other wolves that were summoned by other players, basically. Then we can just go ahead and convert our entity to a living entity. So living entity equals to bracketed living entity. And then we are going to do alpha wolf dot set target as our living entity. Finally, we can break out of the for each loop. Basically, we are going to break out the for each loop because we do not want every time we loop through all the mobs, we do not want our wolf to keep switching targets around and get confused, basically. Then after that, we're going to move out of this if statement to set the other targets of the wolves. So wolf1.setTarget as our alpha wolf, dot get target. So basically, all the wolves will be attacking the exact same target at the same time. And then we are just going to copy and paste this for the remaining 3 wolves. So we're just going to change it to 2, 3, and 4 respectively. Then with that, we are just going to move outside of this statement and create an else statement. So else, if I has reached 80, we're going to remove we're going to despawn all of our wolves. So alpha wolf dot remove wolf1 dot remove wolf, that's not the correct one, wolf2 dot remove wolf3 dot remove, and finally wolf4 dot remove. So then last step for this Bukit runnable would be to do the cancelling, so it does not keep lagging out the server. Then finally we can move out of this else statement and create an I++, which increases our I+ by 1 every time our Bukit runnable runs. Then now we are just going to go over here to wherever the error is and just type that's not the correct one, dot run task timer plugin, which is basically why we needed a constructor to get an instance of main class earlier. And then we're going to put 0L for the delay and 5L for our period. So remember that both of these values, the delay and the period, are in ticks, and there are 20 ticks in 1 second. So using that information, we are now going to go through why this is 80. So now, since we know that every second has 20 ticks, and that this code runs once every 5 ticks, so basically this code will run 20 divided by 5, which is basically 4. So this code here will run 4 times per second. Then using that information, and because we want our rules to be despawned after 20 seconds, we're going to take that 4 times per second multiplied by our 20 seconds to get 80. So in this case, all these codes will basically run 80 times within that 20 seconds. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Yup. Anyways, we are basically done with that part. So now we can move on to our last error here and just type dot run task timer again, plugin, comma 0L for the delay and 2L. So we are going to be changing the direction of the arrow once every 2 ticks. Then we are just going to type event.setCancelled as true, because we do not want the dog dart, also another tongue twister and alliteration, to do anything else other than to shoot the dart forward. So we're just gonna add that there, and finally we are done with our items function events class. Now the last step would just to go back to our main class to register our event. So to do this, get server dot get plugin manager. I almost forgot the steps. Dot register events, new dog dart, and then we're going to just type this here because of the constructor, and type this again. So with that, we are done with our coding part. This is quite a long video, I guess. So yeah, anyways, that's done. Now all we have to do is just go ahead and build the artifacts, and I will see you in the test server. We are back in our test server, and if we just go ahead and give ourselves the dog dart, and if we just go ahead and summon that dart, and it will spawn. So let's just go ahead and summon an iron golem this time, and yeah, we would start attacking the iron golem. Yeah. Anyways, we can actually see that it will actually maneuver to wherever we look at, and there you go, attacking the iron golem again. But anyways, that's that, I guess. So that's it for today's video, I guess. If you did enjoy today's video, please leave a like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you do have any other future suggestions for plugins or video ideas, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. And with that all said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you when I see you in the next video. Bye!